This is Extra Paycheck Podcast, episode number 162.
You're listening to Extra Paycheck Podcast, where you will learn how to build and grow your own successful online business. Now, here's your host, Alex Soul.
Welcome to yet another episode of the Extra Paycheck Podcast. This is episode number 162, and today I am joined by Alex French, the CEO and founder of Busy Coffee. Really awesome episode ahead of you, so enjoy today's show. Hi, Alex, and welcome to the Extra Paycheck Podcast.
How are you doing, Alex?
I'm doing great. All right, Alex, so can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what is that you do as a business?
Yeah, so I'm the co-founder and CEO of Busy Coffee, and we make organic cold brew coffee concentrates. We sell them direct to consumer through Amazon and in retail stores.
Mm-hmm. That's really awesome, and that's something that I don't get many people on this podcast that are actually selling physical products, which to me is very interesting because, as I mentioned, it's kind of rare to get entrepreneurs like yourself. So can you tell us a little bit more about this brand and actually how it all started? How did you get that idea?
Yeah, so the brand and the way that we think about it is Busy Coffee for busy people. And we started the company, my co-founder and I, while we were just busy young professionals. So we were working corporate jobs and we were training for this crazy 24-hour endurance race called the World's Toughest Mudder. And just because we were looking to climb the corporate ladder and be as active as we could, we were training constantly. We were just really busy. And we're looking for a more convenient form of coffee. We didn't have time to brew it. We didn't have time to wait in line at a coffee shop. And we heard of this product called cold brew concentrate that you basically just pour it and mix it and it's good to go. And we saw that there was a pretty large gap in the market, and that it was kind of hitting on all of the major trends that we were thinking was going to be the future of food and beverage. And so we decided to start making it ourselves out of a personal need, and continually had people asking us what it was and how they can use it and where they can buy it. And then it just kind of snowballed into a real business.
That's very interesting. So kind of a hobby in a way. Yeah, hobby, I guess. As you said, a product that didn't really exist or you couldn't easily find. And, just because you liked it and found it useful, it eventually turned into a business. That's really awesome.
Yeah, it was kind of like several other entrepreneurs I've heard where they were really just kind of solving their own problem. And that's what we did.
How did you move it into a business as in, making that coffee for yourself versus selling it to public? It's two completely different things, and it requires, well, first of all, it requires, I guess, permits, since it's consumable. It's a beverage, right? So how did you get all that information, and how did you actually launch that business?
Truth be told, you talked about permits. When we started, we were just making it at home, and I've always kind of been the salesman type. And so I'd bring it to work in this, big glass jar, and people would ask me what it is, and I'd pour them a little sample, and they'd like it, and then they'd say, "Can I have some more?" And I'd say, "Yeah, sure, that'll be $5." And I just kind of started charging people, and saw that there was a demand for it. And then once we realized that people were kind of, as I like to say, voting with their wallet, they kind of told us with money that they would pay for it. Then we started looking into more of the certifications and regulations. How do we do this legally as opposed to illegally, we'll say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. And I love that example that you just shared, because this is a real proof of concept when people are actually giving you that money, not just promising that, yeah, that's, I'll buy. That's very interesting. When they're actually giving you that cash, I think that's the proof that your idea is a good one.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people about this very exact concept where I don't believe in surveys at all. I think people lie on them and they want you to feel good. There's been many times where I've had an idea and I've said, "Hey, would you buy this?" And they say, "Yeah, totally." And then I say, well, that'll be $5. And, my wallet, I don't have my credit card, maybe next time. If there's a real opportunity and you're solving a real problem, people will pay real money for it. And that's how you know if you've got something.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And Alex, I have a few other questions about your company. So first of all, I've noticed that you are doing rather well on Amazon. You have hundreds of reviews. And why did you pick Amazon as your sales platform? And how big is how large is your amount of sales on Amazon compared to your website or retail at this point?
Yeah, so Amazon, I absolutely love it. I think if anyone ever wants to start a physical product business, they should absolutely launch it on Amazon. And the reason that is there's people searching for things and they're searching to purchase them. So it's, from what I've been told, the third largest search engine in the world, and people have their credit cards plugged into it. So if you have a product that has demand, there's no easier way to acquire a customer at a lower price. So we love Amazon. We don't disclose revenue figures, but depending on the month and what products we're launching and how hard we're promoting them, retail is the majority of the sales, but Amazon does make up a pretty sizable portion of our business. And our website, orders come in. We don't actively push customers to purchase on our website because that cost to acquire a customer is quite higher on the website.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I was selling a product on Amazon as well, and I had an order form on my website, but I purposely put up the price on the website much higher, so people don't actually order through my website, but go through Amazon instead.
Mm-hmm. And it's a great platform they have there. I got something magic going on.
Yeah. So how did you get your initial rankings and reviews on Amazon? Because it's also another thing that's that's hard. You have competitors in pretty much every niche, every industry. And if we talk about Amazon getting reviews, and well, not reviews necessarily, but I mean ranking well for your keyword phrases, for your product, it's extremely important on Amazon. Otherwise, you're not making any sales. How did you guys deal with that?
We started just about 2 years ago on Amazon, and it was probably easier than, it always gets harder every day. But really, there's a couple of tactical things that you can do. And it's very similar to having your website rank within Google. So you want to be highly relevant to what your consumers are searching for. So for us, we wanted to tag the words cold brew coffee. And so we made sure that our profile was stacked with the words cold brew coffee on the back end, keywords as kind of a meta tag. But then also in our subject line, we have it in our product descriptors. So we just make sure that, we peg a keyword, and then we make sure to fill our profile with that keyword. And it's really important that if someone searches for that specific keyword and they get to your page, that they convert. Because if you don't have a conversion and you get a lot of traffic to the page, you're actually going to be negatively affected. So what we found is it's really important to not try and steal customers from a different keyword or a different category. You're going to do much better if you just focus on a very specific product and keyword and then just go very deep in that. So we did that. And then we do things like we try and drive traffic to our page, whether that's through PR or digital advertising, to help people search keywords and then come to our page using some kind of interesting tactics. So you really just want to make sure that you have a good keyword, you have a relevant profile, and that keyword is pretty much stuffed everywhere it makes sense within that page, and that it's a high converting page for the keyword. And you'll very quickly climb up the rankings as long as you're relevant.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. And that makes a lot of sense. And Alex, did you use Amazon's PPC platform as well, or you didn't touch that?
Yeah, we do Amazon PPC and we do Amazon AMS as well. We found that if you spend on ads, you will be rewarded through organic search rankings, and Amazon will actually pay for your product to show up in ads free for you. So we do spend on Amazon PPC and AMS. We do banner, we do product display ads, and we use those same keywords that we want to rank for, because then it's almost like someone searched your keyword and then they bought your product. And so it kind of tricks the algorithm of Amazon to say this person searched for this word and then they chose this product and they ordered. So this must be highly relevant to that keyword. And then they will shoot your rankings up. So that's another really good tactic. It does cost money. But the nice thing about Amazon PPC is that it's kind of a cashless advertising. So they just deduct it from what they owe you. And so it's a good way to climb up faster, as long as you're conscious of how much you're spending, because you can choose a keyword like coffee, for example, which gets hundreds of thousands of impressions a week, and you can spend a lot of money. So you just got to be conscious about staying on top of that stuff.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for sharing your secret marketing techniques.
Of course.
All right, Alex. So did you start that whole thing just exclusively on Amazon, or did you start pushing to retail at the same time, or like how did that work out for you?
So we actually started initially on our website to try and gain some consumer learnings, like who's buying it, why are they buying it, what don't they like, how can we can talk to them. So we did that in March of 2016. And then in May of 2016, we launched on Amazon and in one retail store. And so there's pros and cons to everything, but we wanted to make sure that we had as much consumer information as possible. The one major downside with Amazon is they don't really allow you to speak very closely with your consumers. They don't give you their email address. And so to gain consumer insights on who's purchasing, why they're purchasing, is a little more difficult than on your website. So there is value to starting on the website, but knowing that it's going to be more expensive to get that information and to acquire the customer than it's going to be on Amazon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right, Alex. So you said you have a partner for this business. And is this, well, for you personally, is that your main gig right now? Or are you doing anything else that's entrepreneurial, let's say?
All I do is focus on Busy Coffee, and we have 6 full-time people that work with us.
Wow.
So it definitely started as an extra paycheck. We have invested, some money ourselves. As you mentioned, it's a physical product, which it does require a little bit more cash up front because you have to pay for the inventory. But yeah, this is our full-time gig. Both my business partner and I quit our jobs in September of 2015 to pursue the idea full-time. In the retail setting, it's very competitive and speed is very important. So doing that on the side isn't really an option. But building an Amazon business on the side is a great option, and it's very doable. We actually manufacture the product ourselves. So we have a production facility in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And so that just requires a different set of skills and a different level of overhead, where if you were to, say, drop ship a product or private label it, you wouldn't need any of those additional people or resources that we require because we make it ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And that's awesome to hear that, you're putting all your time into that and concentrating, and, it shows the results you're getting. I guess it's proof that, the more time you invest in it, the more you concentrate on one project, the better results you get out of it.
Mm-hmm. And I will say, I think there's a ton of value. We both started this on the side while we were working our regular jobs. Mm-hmm. And it got to a point where we were comfortable leaving our jobs to pursue it full time. So I think, that's a really great approach, is to get as far as you can, get your confidence up in what you're doing, so that if you do decide to take the leap, you can really devote all of your energy and not have to worry that, is this going to work or not? because ideally you've gotten to a point where you've proven to yourself that if you put more energy in, you're going to get a lot more than you would just doing it part-time.
Mm-hmm. That is really good advice. And this is something that a lot of people ask me. Should they quit their job like at the very beginning of their of their new business, or should they save up a certain amount of money and then quit their job, or should they do that new business or new venture on the side until the point where they make enough money to feel comfortable to leave their job? And I don't think there's a perfect answer to that question, because it depends. Mm-hmm. And in your case, you just mentioned that you guys got to the point where you felt comfortable leaving your job because you thought, okay, this company is it works. It's we proved that it works. It gives us enough money to to stay afloat. So let's do that now.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And it may not be that for some individuals where you may not be at the point where it's going to surpass your daily income. I think the important part, at least for me, is that I've just proven to myself that it can work. It may not be working to the degree that I want it to, and you're, swimming in money, but you have the confidence to put all of your energy into it, where earlier on you may be asking yourself, is this going to work? Is this the right idea? Should I do it? So I've found it helpful for me with my ideas is I'll get to a point where I have kind of the emotional confidence to commit. And then at that point, I'm ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And Alex, you mentioned that when you started it, both you and your partner had full-time jobs, right? Mm-hmm. So how did you juggle that? Because that's also a question a lot of people ask. They say, I have a full-time job. I have no time or no energy to work on any other projects. I just want to come home and relax, or the typical excuses, because I think they're just excuses. If you really want to start a business or anything, really, you can always find that time on the side, because let's admit it, most of us would just waste time by watching Netflix series or doing whatever it is we're doing besides our work. So how did you manage that? How did you juggle that extra time after work? How did you make it work?
Truthfully, I slept less and I had less of a social life. Fortunately, my business partner happens to be my best friend, and he was my roommate, and we were training for this crazy 24-hour race together. So we were kind of competitive with each other. And so we'd get up earlier and we'd do research, then we'd go to work, and then we'd Slack, or I think at the time we were using Evernote chat, and talk during the work about things that we were working on over lunch. And then we'd go work out when we got back. And that was a really productive time to talk about the work. Then we'd go back home and we'd work. So it's, I agree. I think that they're all excuses. If you want it, there's time, sleep less, and it's a sacrifice and it's really hard, but at the end of the day, if that's what you want to do, then you should do it.
Mm-hmm. So besides working on that business, building it out, and having a full-time job, you mentioned you were also training for a 24-hour race.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, no, it was, but I will say it was a truly life-changing event, because it was so physically, emotionally, and mentally taxing. Very similar to starting a business, that it put my mind in a shift where I have this firm belief that I think anything is possible with hard work and determination. Because if you can run and climb, beat yourself up for 24 hours, I think you can do anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I have another question for you. A lot of people, when they're thinking of starting a business, thinking of starting something, they, another excuse here is that there are other companies already doing that. There's already someone successful selling the same thing, let it be a service, product, training, whatever it is, right? And, that scares people away. Once again, I think it's just an excuse. You guys didn't get scared away. You are doing your thing. And of course, that there will be other companies or other people that will look at you and think the opposite of the people that I just mentioned. They'll think, okay, look at Alex and his company. Look at Busy Coffee. Like they're successful. I'm just gonna copy the concept and I'm gonna launch the same product exactly, and I'm gonna sell it exactly the way they sold it. Right? It's gonna happen. Like, why does that not scare you, or what are you doing to make sure that you still stand out and you are still a better seller than all those copycats and people that will try to do what you do?
I just always want to do it a little bit different and a little bit better. So I want to make sure my brand is cooler. I want to make my product taste better. If someone copies me 100% of the way, I'm going to launch a new flavor, or I'm going to change my bottle design, or I'm going to sell it through a different channel. I think there's always ways to be thinking ahead and just proactively not sitting on your laurels, but saying, what can we do next? How can we grow more? How can we build a larger moat around our business to make it harder for someone to copy us? And if there's someone out there who has an idea and you see that someone else is doing it, I look at it like, well, there's no risk there's no demand of the product, because for a lot of businesses, they don't even know if people are going to buy it. So I think copying someone is totally fine. And then just ask yourself, how can I do it slightly differently or slightly better? And then go ahead and do it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that's it. Don't be scared of competition, right? I think competition is a good thing. It's healthy. And it pushes you to become better as well, or should.
Well, and a great thing about it is it proves that there's demand for what you're doing, because there's many businesses that are out there that have a product and no one wants to buy it. And so if you go after an existing category and you have some differentiation with it, it's going to be successful because people are already doing it. So it takes away a lot of the risk and the fear of failure.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And at this point where your company is right now, I'm sure you guys are, trying to grow it. And what do you think will be the best path of growth for you? Is it more retail, or making different flavors, or simply adding another product, completely different product to your lineup of products? Like, what's your idea of growth for the future?
Yeah, for the next year, we're really focused on growing our retail distribution. And so we just want to get into more stores, get in more people's mouths, and get them to try it, because once they try it, they like it and they buy it again. And that's much easier to do in retail than online. So we definitely want to grow the retail distribution. We, of course, are going to do our best to grow online just because we love it, and it's a lot less expensive from an overhead standpoint. So those are kind of the two major focuses: is how do we grow our retail distribution faster and more strategically, and then how can we get more people to come to our Amazon page and buy.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'll go back to retail for a second here. And that's a question that, of course, a lot of people have no idea about, and they're very curious. How do you get into retail? How did you guys initially get into retail? Did you know somebody, or did you just pitch and got in?
I mean, I'll be honest, retail is very, very difficult. It's very expensive. My suggestion would be to not do retail for most people because it just requires such a different skill set than online. But if you so choose, for in the food and beverage space, there's a pretty clear-cut path on how to do it. And what you do is you go to your local co-op, your local mom and pop store, and you say, hey, this is my product. I'd love to sell it here, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure that this product sells. They're going to ask you to set up some forms and make sure you have your food safety and some permits. So, of course, you must have those. You get into that store, and then you do whatever it takes to sell as much of that product as you can. Friends, family, sample, big signs, do whatever you need to do at that one store to prove that it's working very well. And then you go to the next chain that has 5 or 10 stores, and you say, hey, I'm in mom and pop street down the road, and I'm selling XYZ units per week. You got to take this product because look how successful it is. And then you get the slightly larger stores to pick that product up, and you're delivering these yourself a pain in the butt, but you got to do it. You deliver it and you sell it and you sample it and you do whatever they ask for marketing and advertising, all these crazy things and costs that you never thought were involved that you have to do. And then you do well at those 5 to 10 additional stores and they sell really well. And you make sure those store owners love you. And then you go to the distributor that delivers products to that store. And if you don't know who that is, just ask them. They'll tell you. And then once you have the name of the distributor, you go to that distributor and you say, hey, I'm with XYZ company. I sell in these 5 to 10 stores and it's selling really well. Would you distribute the product for me to the store? And so you have to sell it at a price where the distributor makes money and the retailer makes money. So it's important to do that from the beginning. And then once that distributor is taking the product to the stores that you're already selling in, you ask for a list of stores that they distribute to. And then you go to those other stores that you're not currently in and you say, I'm selling in these 5 to 10 stores and I use this distributor and it's selling really well. Will you carry the product? And then you just rinse and repeat that time and time again. And you have a data story and you slowly but surely will grow your retail presence.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. That's a very, very detailed step by step, actually. And I know it's harder to implement. It's much harder than it sounds, but it's at the same time it sounds so simple and logical.
And it's funny because it's such an old industry of getting products to a store and walking in and purchasing it.
Yeah.
And it hasn't changed in 75, 100 years. And I'll say that's for better or worse. There's a clear path on how to do it, but it's heavily based on relationships. And the people that have been selling into the stores for those 75 and 100 years, think Coca-Cola, Pepsi, any of those companies, they have very long-standing relationships where both companies have made lots and lots and lots of money together. And so they want to do what specifically Coca-Cola or Pepsi or any other large brand or conglomerate, they're going to kind of do whatever they can to keep you out because they have existing relationships. So over time, that becomes a challenge. When it's early on, that's not as big of a deal. But if you get into 100 stores or 500 or 1,000 or 20,000, that's going to become a big issue, and you're going to have to at some point overcome that. And that's the nature of the industry.
Yeah, yeah. If it was that easy, we'd all be rich, right?
That's for sure.
All right, Alex, and are you guys planning to expand internationally in anytime soon?
Not anytime soon. There's a lot of opportunity in the United States for us to still pursue. I think we'd love to get to a point when we can go there, but due to our kind of limited bandwidth with the team that we have, we'd probably spread ourselves too thin. Mm-hmm. We have definitely gotten requests, but I don't think that we would be able to support it as well as we should and know that we can locally. So for the next probably year or two, we're going to be focused on just growing within the United States.
Okay, makes sense. Because I was just on Amazon and I was thinking I'd like to try that coffee, but then there's no shipping to Canada.
Yeah. No, not yet. Maybe if we were to expand internationally, it would absolutely be through Amazon Canada. That would be the next step. But there's a lot of opportunity in the U.S. still.
Yeah, I guess I'll have to go back to the States to try it.
Oh, I love it.
And Alex, another thing that I noticed on your website, I was looking at your distributors. I mean, at the stores where people can purchase your products, and I was curious, why is it? Why are you retailing in those specific states? It's more like central US, I guess. And I would see your product a lot more and getting a lot more popular on the extreme east and extreme west coast of the US. Mm-hmm. Is that because you are based in that region, or is there any other reason why you started from those specific states where you started?
Yeah, so most of our presence is in the central United States, and that would include the Rocky Mountain region as well. So we do very well in Denver, Colorado. That map we use on our site is probably a little clunky, so we should improve that. But we're in, as of today, over 1,000 retail stores, and we're in all 50 states. We have the highest density in our region because it's, we're the local hometown heroes. Mm-hmm. But we are in the East Coast and the West Coast, but because it's so geographically far from us, it's harder for us to get into new stores. And so that's a major focus for us this year, is to grow our distribution really on the East Coast and the West Coast, knowing that that's where most of the population density is.
Yeah, sure. Makes sense. And did you just say you're in more than 1,000 locations right now?
Yep, that is correct.
Wow, that is really awesome. And congratulations on that. I think that's a big achievement.
Yeah, we actually just got into 1,000 stores. We just broke the mark last month. So it was a big deal for us. We're super excited. We had a nice little team outing to celebrate. So thank you for that.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And I think that, going retail and pushing as far as you guys have gone so far, especially in the beverage business, that's huge. That's hard. From what I understand, especially in the States, beverage business is extremely competitive and difficult.
Yeah, I would not recommend getting into the industry. To your point, it is very, very, very challenging. If I were to suggest starting a business, I would drop ship a product on Amazon and use pay-per-click advertising to sell it. And I think that's a very simple, easy way to get started. I don't know of anything besides like a hardware product that's as hard as beverage. So we've taken our lumps on the chin. It hasn't been easy, but things are looking pretty good for us.
Yeah, awesome. All right, Alex, as we're approaching the end of this episode, can you share your most important suggestion to any beginner entrepreneur or someone who just started their business and, they're just thinking of how to grow it? What is that one thing that they should pay the most attention to?
I think the most important thing is get to revenue as fast as you can. People will generally wait till they have the perfect product or the perfect business plan. As I kind of mentioned earlier, people vote with their dollars. So the sooner that you can get someone to pay you for your product or your service, the better, because if they're paying for it, they're going to tell you what they like about it, what they don't like about it, and then that'll give you the answers on how to grow your business.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And Alex, before you go, where can people find your products and find more about you and your company?
Yeah, we're on Instagram at Busy Coffee, and that's spelled Bizzy. We're on Amazon at Busy Coffee, Facebook, and busycoffee.com.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm going to put all those links in the show notes pages, so it'll be easier for people to find them. Alex, thank you so much for sharing your story, sharing your experiences, and sharing your strategies and tips on how to grow an actual business.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Alex.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Extra Paycheck Podcast. Please do head over to extrapodcast.com/162. This is where I'll be putting up show notes page for today's episode. Also head over to extrapodcast.com/YouTube in order to subscribe to the YouTube channel of the Extra Paycheck Podcast. Also check out extrapodcast.com/Spotify in order to follow the show on Spotify. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to you next Monday.